Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. As always, we bring individuals to you that are decision makers or those with connections to those decision makers so that we can ensure that we marry our community needs with viable resources that are out there throughout our communities nationwide and globally. Today, of course, I'm thrilled to have all of our guests, weekly as we come on. So today's no exception. This exceptional gentleman that we have has a story to tell. I would be doing him a disservice if I attempted to read and drag, pick, pull, clip, and cut from his bio. So I won't do that. What I will do is say, this is a black man in America, a brother's brother who knows he's a brother. He is someone who has a story to tell, not to highlight, in essence, those things that are trials and tribulations, but those things that he will use that he has used to show how he has enhanced himself, his community, his family, and a rapport for others to glean from. And that individual is none other than my good brother, Mr. L. Sawyer. Welcome to the stage, sir.
How are you, sir? Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. So, like I said, there's no formalities, there's no airs that we put on at a seat at the table. We're straight shooters. First and foremost, we have to shout out the great, the one, the only, Miss Peg, Miss Charlotte Plains, who introduced us well over 6 years ago now, 7 years
It's been
now,
a while. It's been a while. It's been a while. If not longer than that. Yeah, something like that.
around that time. Not quite
Around that
10,
time.
but it might be 10, honestly. It might be 10.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Very much. Yeah, maybe.
yeah. So whatever it is, we have to show, we have to do our best here and prove to Mama Plains that we were worthy of the introduction. So no, in
Man,
all
listen.
seriousness, I thank you for joining us here this evening, just to make sure that, as I said, this show is predicated around having people come on that I and others have had relationships with throughout the years before we had a viable media alternative to the traditional media that's out there that doesn't necessarily tell our story or give our perspectives with fidelity. And so I
Right.
know for a fact that you are the one to be here. So let me turn it over to you. I've said enough. Thank you for being here again. Welcome. This is your first time, but surely won't be your last.
Yeah, with any luck. No, thank you so much again. And that opening was, just reminding me how underdressed I am for the occasion. I think that's sure. So yeah, how do you want to do this? So basically, like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? Like, what? Talk to me. Like, what would be an appropriate introduction?
Feedback there. Go ahead. You missed the
I said
question.
what? Sorry. So yeah, I said what would be an appropriate introduction. So what? How would you? How should I proceed with this? Like,
However, that workaround reentry led us to recognize that not only we need to run parallel, but we must intersect as we move forward. Whether that was the grassroots foundation, whether you were working in Philadelphia, me here in Harrisburg, and or you taking your show on the road, literally and film wise, in terms of
right?
galvanizing a larger population or whatever. So, we can start at
Yeah,
the 18 to 20 if you want. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
however you want to
Whatever.
do it. This is
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, just for anybody that don't know me or what have you, again, my name is L. Sawyer. I see myself as an entrepreneur and a filmmaker, but overall like an advocate and an activist. I would feel safe in saying that. I you know, Rewinding back, I went to juvenile. I was committed a crime and I was sentenced to juvenile time at the age of 15. And from that point, I did 2 years in juvenile, came home, and then within months, I committed a crime and a shooting, an aggravated assault, and was sentenced to 8 to 20 years in prison. I did all of my time in Greater Ford Prison for the most part, and so and again with that trajectory. again, at juvenile time, by the age of 15, I had already failed 3 times in school, if I recount, maybe even 4 grades. I was held back. When I went to juvenile, by the time I went to juvenile and then ultimately adult prison, I couldn't read. Had never had a job. So no prospects of actually not only, uh, um, you know, thought or prospects of coming home any better or in a better situation or better odds of sort of turning the tides on my fortune. Um, uh, you know, then I went in, right? Like so the idea is like, um, but having said that, life is very complicated, right? And I always say that there's no straight lines. The idea is that when I went to prison, especially adult prison, and was serving 8 years in prison, I went to Greater Ford Prison, and Greater Ford is a very interesting place. I mean, definitely, can be, it's prison. It's the sort of quintessential prison. But one thing that was interesting for me is that for me, I see it was a not as an advocate for prison at all. I'm not saying this in that context. I'm saying that for me, prison, specifically Greater Ford, was a sort of like a school of thought, and it was a place of meditation for me in a lot of ways. And I, specifically me, was fortunate enough to actually, um, or lucky, I would go so far as to say that I fell in the graces of some really good people, people that cared about me more than I cared about myself at the time, and kept me out of harm's way, and actually assisted me in my development in my process. Um, during my time there. After 8 years of being there, or a little less than 8 years, considering county time when I was, or we wind it back a little bit more than that, like 6 years of being in prison or so, 5.5, 6 years. I still didn't know what I wanted to do when I went home. And I had elders. My own had Haroon and Daoud, Shakur, like very substantial figures in my life that were at Greater Ford, that I befriended, and they basically just sort of took care of me and protected me from all the sort of options of you know sort of negative elements within the institution. Um, they gave me a thing that I always considered to be, and I talk about it now as not just mentorship and networking, but they gave me a thing I consider to be sort of sort of pre networking or pre mentorship. And I was able to. They basically shaped me up to the place where I was able to then receive help from anybody else. Right? They, it first started with them sort of breaking me down in the sense of just kind of allowing me to understand that I have another chance at going home. Albeit at the time, going to Greater Fort, I was 17, and then I was going to be 25 years old when I come home. Like that's a long time, and it seems like a lifetime, but from people that had been incarcerated at that one institution longer than I had been alive at that point, and those of which are still there now, that put a lot of things into context for me. And they basically, it took a while for me to sort of settle down from just doing sort of, kind of getting in, getting into the institution and kind of getting into the groove of what institutionalization is. But I got to the point where something happened where a lot of things was happening in the institution, and a good friend of mine had got stabbed and killed, and I thought I was next, and it was that kind of like it was that kind of thing going on in at Graterford at the time, and I thought I was next. So I had a son. So before I went to prison, I had a son. I was really young. I had a son. So the whole time I'm in prison, I have my son. I'm communicating with my son. But I never got to see him, right? And I never got to meet him. Never really got to like interact with him. Collect calls are really expensive, and like we didn't really get to talk much. So I had to try to communicate with him somehow, or even if God forbid something happened to me and I wasn't able to ever go home, how would he ever know me? How would he ever get to know me, right? So I came up with an idea to basically inside the institution they have a internal sort of video crew that basically documents like internal programs, and they have them sort of casted out on their what would be like a LAN system, like an internal network system. Like if there's a barbershop opening spot or a program going on, they would have a film crew or video crew within the institution with these big rudimentary big VHS cameras go down and like do an interview with the barber or something, say, oh, and they would show it in the on the TV. And I seen that and I said, oh man, it'd be crazy if I could actually get on that crew. And my plan was to get on that crew to basically use the cameras to interview myself, to basically have videotapes of me to send to my son,
Mm.
just in case something happened to me. Because I was thinking that I wasn't thinking about coming home. I was thinking like, how can right now I sort of solidify my presence in my son's life? God forbid something happened. And I did. And I was fortunate to get on the crew. I was one of 8 people. I was the only one without a life sentence that was on the crew. The crew don't have a lot of turnover. If there's a lot of folks with life on the crew at the time, there wasn't a lot of turnover.
What was that like?
Pennsylvania has had the biggest lifer and the number equivalent population in the country. And again, the U.S. has one more time.
No, I was saying, what was that like? That part, being on there at the age by this time you're what? But
There's a
how
little lag in
got
the. Oh yeah. Well,
on? There's a lag.
there's a little lag. You said what was
Yeah,
that like being on the crew, and then and what again?
I was saying first, how old were you? Then what was that like
So
being
so that wasn't being on the crew.
okay to yeah, let's do a commercial break right now. Then we'll reconnect. So you're here again, tuned in live at the seat at the table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. And our guest tonight, of course, is Mr. L. Sawyer, social and community activist and filmmaker. We'll see you on the other side of this commercial. And again, we are back with our guest this evening, Mr. L. Sawyer. Mr. Sawyer, L, good brother. We were talking about specifically about you having the opportunity to be on the film crew inside. You wanted to capture yourself in the event that you did not get back on the other side, but you wanted to make sure your son had an opportunity to have his dad memorialized in some way, if you will, in the event that that was necessary. So my question was, how old were you when you were um, allowed onto that film crew at Greaterford with lifers? How were you, and what was your thought process around there, recognizing that opportunity?
If I look back, I think I was probably around 19, or so, maybe 20.
Okay. So what we're going to do, obviously, we're having a connection issue.
In the world.
Okay.
So and in Pennsylvania, Greater Fort. Say it again.
Go ahead. We had a little pause again and a little delay again, but you're back.
Yeah, so and Greater Fort had the biggest lifer population in the state. So there was, large portion of all the people sentenced to life in the state of Pennsylvania were at Greater Fort. So I was used to like, as much as you can be used to that dynamic, and everybody just treats you again if you have a number like you're short for real, for real. You're not a lifer, right? And there's a big difference, right? Huge, huge difference, especially then. So that wasn't the thing. I mean, one big thing I would say is that there was no real space for me on the crew. So the interesting part about it, not only was did I have a number, but I had the least I was the youngest person, right? And there was no space for me. So I didn't actually get to touch a camera at first. I got to wrap the wires, right? Like that was a major thing. But I listen, I'm telling you, hindsight is so 2020, man. I took so much pride in that, in wrapping the wires. And it was interesting. And then I didn't get a chance to really touch the camera. So it was this one opportunity that I got a chance to touch the camera. I was the first one there to wrap wires, the last one to leave. I was the best wire wrapper in the city. And if you ever wrap wires, man, I wish I had some wires I would show you. There's a specific way to do this, right? Not teach this, right? Like it's on it. But it's really again, you take care of your equipment, it takes care of you, right? And there's so many life lessons in the nuanced things. Everything ain't about all hands on, all the main equipment. Like some things are supporting equipment, just as important at times. So this one instance where this lady was coming into the institution. She's Chinese lady, Chinese American lady. Her name's Lily Ye. Amazing lady. She's amazing. And I didn't know her at the time. And she's an artist. Started a foundation in Philadelphia, and she worked with this one community in North Philly, in Germantown Avenue in North Philly. And majority of the people, or the kids that she worked with at this arts organization, majority of their fathers were at Greater Ford. So she said, "Man, to look at a holistic sort of approach to, providing service for these kids. How can I do that without actually tapping into their fathers and their family?" So there was a film crew. This guy named Glenn Holston was following her in her work in North Philly, in Rwanda, and then they followed her to Greater Ford to connect with the men at Greater Ford to ultimately have an effect on the community they were coming home to, which is really, man, that was like future facing at the time. So she wanted to come into institution and teach men, painting and like self-portrait painting or something or another. Well, we was at a meeting, the production crew meeting, and they asked, they said, "All right, man, at the time, the Isley Brothers was coming in, the Roots, was coming in, different shows was happening. It's Greater Ford, right? It's like, and everybody wanted to do that. And then all of a sudden they said, "Oh yeah, by the way, we had this lady, this Chinese lady's coming in teaching, dudes like face painting or what it sounded like face painting. It was like self-portrait painting. Does anybody want to film it?" And nobody raised their hand. I said, "Yeah, shoot. I'll film it." I raised my hand. And it was like, "All right, you're up." Boom. Well, come to find out, the film crew that was coming in with her wasn't allowed to bring cameras into the institution because of security issues. So they said, "You can come in and you can direct it, but you'll have to use the film crew that's internal." Well, Glenn and most decorated filmmaker, and he's just amazing filmmaker, one of my favorites even now. And he taught me for 6 years. He came up to the institution and taught me film, some days, some weeks, 3 times a week. Like we're talking about, had a whole family and everything, career, everything. He would drive an hour and a half and sometimes from Philly to Greater Ford to teach me film. When I left Greater Ford after 6 years instructions, I was able to teach on a graduate level, right? I was able to teach, and mind you, never graduated high school, couldn't read, barely could write, right? I was able to teach film and the artistic approach of it on a graduate level.
I have to chime in for a
Mhm.
second. I have to chime in a second. We have a
Please.
we have a visitor.
Oh
You might.
yeah.
Hi there, my friend. I didn't know you were going to be on tonight. The one and only Miss Charlotte Plains is watching you.
Oh my goodness. Hey.
It's your time to say your hellos.
Hey, Charlotte. Not only do I give it hellos to Charlotte, but I gotta ask her for permission to talk. Like that's just how we roll. That's my folks. Love you,
So
Charlotte.
I'm gonna catch it. I'm gonna catch it because I didn't send her a heads up that you were going to be on.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. Shout out to Mr. Bullock as well. Always pops. He's out there. But let's transition a bit. Um,
Mm.
and get into that reentry, the
Yep.
recidivism work you do, and how that's all tied into addressing our communities. And we were talking last week, and we were talking about terraform, and
Yeah.
yeah, and we were talking about being synonymous with gentrification. It was necessary, was not. And Mother Plains granted permission for you to talk, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So
We kind of jumped ahead of that, but now that we
yeah,
we caught
yeah,
up with that now. Thank you,
it's
Charlotte.
all good. It's all hey, it's
That's
all
right.
good. So we were talking last week specifically about underserved, underrepresented, and disinvested, not underinvested, but disinvestment in community.
Hmm.
And and of course, my mom's on now. Shout out to Bernadine Whitley, my mother. Um,
Hey.
so when we start to talk about our communities and those of us that were or are a part of a community and left, whether that was prison or college or just moved and coming back, and we see that things have transformed, and in that transformation it did not remain inclusive of us.
Right.
uh, and so we were having a conversation last week about that. So when you're talking about reentry, you're talking about recidivism, you're talking about neglected
Yep.
communities, you're talking about the push out method in essence, as we were talking about
Hmm.
terraform, because it's not welcoming. It's not one of those things where you are re-entering into a friendly environment. You talked about pull of gravity, one of your films. So give us a little feedback on your thoughts around all of that we just talked about last week as well as for today. If you can condense that into a response centered on reentry, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And again, there's a lot of conversation. Let me know if I'm on because it looks like frozen.
You're good. We got you. You're good.
Okay. So basically, like again, there's a lot of convers. I'm sorry. There's a little bit of lag, but I'll just talk. Just let me know if I'm not on. So basically, there's a lot of conversation. Has been a lot of conversation around criminal justice reform, or a lot of conversation.
Okay, so what we'll do again, we were talking about overall uh Brother Sawyer's work around reentry, recidivism, and addressing our neglected communities. And so, all right, yeah, we have him back in now and again. So we just having minor issues, but we're back on again. So we're centered on making sure that even if we are absent from the community, that there has to be a piece of the community that is still rooted in receiving us back, whoever us may mean. Those of us who are, that are reentering from college, like I said, from correctional institutions, or those that have moved from military. There's veterans. There's all sorts of reentry. So it's not necessarily just the negative things, but what we want to hone in on is the fact of what the community looks like, what those needs and resources are there to make sure that it is fully inclusive of all of us and not just some of us. So it has to work for the masses and not just the chosen few. So that's where I'm leading with that question. Uh, and I don't want reentry to just center on reentry from incarceration, but reentering in terms of you may have moved elsewhere, you may have been shifted for a job or career path, and now you're coming back again. But those neighborhoods that we once knew are being transformed in a way where it's not welcoming as it should be to a diverse population in terms of not only race and ethnicity, but also mindset. And so that's where we are right now, and that's what I wanted you to kind of touch on, and why that pull of gravity video or film was so prolific, I think, and profound.
Yeah, I think let me know if it blanks out a little bit. But again, I would urge to say again, just backing up, if I, just speaking about reentry from prison specifically, you hear me? I'm good.
Yes. Here what we'll do is we'll take another quick commercial break, and we'll make sure he's reconnected so we can continue this conversation. Again, you're joining us live here at the Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. And this evening's guest is filmmaker, social activist, and community builder, Mr. L. Sawyer. We'll see you on the other side of this commercial. Thank you. And again, we are back. Uh, Hopefully, we have everything worked out this time. And what we're looking at doing is continue the conversation, around the importance of a community being welcome once individuals are reentering during their time away, whatever that time is for, regarding not necessarily, as I said earlier, just incarceration, but overall just relocating geographically for work and or pleasure. And what we find a lot is that our communities have been um, constructed, we'll say, these abstract barriers to reentering into the very communities that we grew up in. And so that gentrification, the new term I learned was that terraform, in which you make things habitable in a way where it is transforming away from the old into something new, but not necessarily respecting that which once was. And so, in essence, it's a push out method. And so, Brother L. Sawyer and I, we've had a robust conversation around that topic last week. And in doing so, we thought it was important that we continued that dialogue to highlight gentrification and other areas of concern that are happening not only in Philadelphia and Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, but nationwide and or globally. So, with that being said, again, you know, um, we're talking again about making sure that communities are growing and enhancing in a way where it's still welcoming and present with opportunities for all, and not merely the chosen few. So, good brother. Again, it's on you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Internet is just doing what it does. Yeah, I was going to say that, everything you said is right, right? And then based off of our conversation, but I wanted to kind of back it up and just think about prison reentry. And just let me just say is that there's a lot of conversation just around it, like, justice reform or prison, like school to prison pipeline, all these tag phrases and words that honestly doesn't really mean a whole bunch, right? We're skipping over. And again, if we name any one particular element of this, all of that is all part of the same
Mm,
thing, right? That gentrification. To name any one particular thing, it's all part of the whole. And part of the whole meaning, like again, people aren't going to prison. People aren't shooting each other in a healthy environment, right? That doesn't happen, right? So the idea is like again, when you're seeing these issues, nobody's looking at this particular community and say like, what's going on, what happened, or how can we stop this onslaught? What's causing this? And again, so we can point to you know school to prison pipeline, or prison going to prison, people going to prison, or even reentry or recidivism, and all of it's part of the whole. So I'm saying all that just to say it's like the common denominator is what's acceptable for predominantly black communities, right? Especially predominantly black communities that are and has been historically sort of shuttered into or enclaved in pockets of poverty, and those of us that live in and around black communities, a lot of times we're in such proximity or got so much family that's steeped in poverty. Our small bit of transition out of that doesn't really do much for our well-being, our psychology, or our mental health, or even our kids' future and trajectory out of that pool of gravity we're referring to.
Right.
So I say that to say, is again, if they look at like criminal justice reform, you're looking at any particular little laws or any particular little things without looking at the whole. We're just it's really it's just a futile effort, honestly, in my opinion. So again, people that go to prison is only one part of it, right? So again, if I in our community, if we got folks that pass away, at 60 years old, as if they've lived a long life, or as if that's old age, right? And it's like, but it's not about how long you live, because our lives tend to be shorter by and large, but also our quality of life is less than, right? So again, if we're looking at people that go to prison, or people that shoot each other, people that all these things, those are just reactions, all individual sort of reactions to a common problem, right? It's hopelessness. How do we see ourselves? What's the quality of life? What's the expectation? What can I hope for in this life? And you're talking about just backing up a little bit, just again, there's big conversations about like how we as Black folks see ourselves and what's possible for us. You mentioned in your opening piece about just like bringing stories about locally, statewide, national, or international, right? I think, again, not to paraphrase what you said
Right.
there, but again, if we put ourselves in a bigger context of what is Black, what is healthy for a human being, period. Not a Black human being, what a white, no, a human being, period, right? Or, and again, out of the context of what's healthy in America's structure, or in this, again, we would have a different point of view, right? Again, whatever we're seeing, again, if I had a situation and if I moved, and I just recently moved from what would be Northern Liberties, or down by Delaware Avenue in Philly, out to the suburbs, out to Chadsford, right? So I had to, right, because of COVID and a whole bunch of other things going on. But it was, it wasn't a lateral movement. I had to level up, right? Why? For school districts, right? I had to level up for, again, for space and for health, for nature, all these different things that I over time learned. Those things are, again, investing in good education, and investing in an adequate, safe and nurturing environment for my family. It means everything, right? That's what it's all about. But to do that and maintain a life but to do that for us means to separate from sometimes our bigger support system as family, right? Like right now, is like, I don't have an aunt across the street that can watch my kids, right? My kid isn't with with her cousins, or or playing with her, down the street with, like, there's a family nucleus that happens, but to get to a place that is healthy and or takes us into a safe space, all too often we have to then relocate from where that nucleus is as a community. So it's like, again, I'm saying all that just to say, is like the common denominator is not only our experience, our collective experience as Black folks, but our adaptation to poverty, our culture created around these limited resources, and then us making the best out of that, and then wondering why we have as many sort of inequities that kind of derive from that.
And
I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just rambling. Go ahead.
you're spot on. And I do want to highlight Miss Peg, Miss Charlotte Plains, when I was talking about reentry, and I kind of blended, everyone in one pot, not out of disrespect, but I did blend. It is important, to her point, to highlight the fact that when others are reentering, they don't face the same barriers that individuals who are reentering from prison or jail that they do.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's true, but I would even go one step further, which is, I didn't see that comment, but you're right. And again, I get where you were going with that, and I get that whole piece for sure. But I will go one step even further. Is that again, somebody black coming out of prison, especially somebody black that has adapted to a culture of crime out of a sort of adaptation to our
Mm-hmm.
space and our environment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't have the same reality coming out of prison back to that same environment as a white person that commits a crime and then comes home. Maybe got on, opioids or whatever the deal is that would happen, and then they would come home. Completely different interactions, completely different reality. And I feel like a lot of times reentry programs or even the reentry tag phrase and the efforts given to people that are returning home, it turns into sort of all lives matter to me, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's not okay for me.
Right.
So it's like, I get and I appreciate people's experience and all that. That's cool. But we need to have a very separate conversation of what feeds me and my folks because of what we need to transition out of, right? I can't just, I can't wash this off, right? If some white folks take a shower and change their clothes and they can go off, they have a community, a nation that receives them. We don't. We have enclaves that we have to then try to adhere to. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say something that stuck out in my mind today. I was talking with a reporter friend of mine, um, and and we were having a conversation around an article that was done in Penn Live, and in which it talked about there being this lawmakers who in essence broke the law. And as soon as you
Right.
start scrolling on Penn Live, which I was convinced to do today, you see a litany of black women first, of legislators that were, um, whatever,
Yeah.
and then you get down to the white male and one white female, as I recall, and then you get into more white people. But it starts off with all these black people, in particular our black women. And now let me say this, and one name that struck me and others that was not present was Tom Druce. A
Mm.
state, to your point, of washing off and then re-entering back into a community as if, ta-da, I was gone, but I'm back. I think it's Clay King on the on Urban View, channel series 126. He goes, my time is up here, but really, y'all, I ain't never gone. You know, this dude is like never going. Tom Cruise, he murdered Mr. Kenneth Keynes on Cameron Street here in the city of Harrisburg as a state representative, as someone who was pushing forth the laws, insurance fraud, etc., all of which he fell victim to. He killed the black man. He came out. He's not even making the papers right now. These years later, they've allowed him to recreate himself. And this is why we need programs like this. So to your point, there's a whole plethora of reasons why, to your point, which
Yeah,
is very
man.
valid, very well taken, that we need to make sure that we are clear in our reoccurring theme since we started this program is living in two Americas. What would the Capitol have looked like if January 6th, instead of the Klan flags and the Confederate flags flying and the nooses hanging, if that was Black Lives Matter with brothers or the not effing around organization? Um, it would have been
Right.
red, black, and green, but the red would have been blood,
Right.
not the African
I
flag.
mean, and that shouldn't be, and again, not that it is to you. I'm just saying for people that shouldn't be surprising. Again, I'm not, I'm who am I, right? Like whatever, but like it don't take a rocket scientist to over a certain period of time to realize that there's none of this is set up for us,
Right.
right? And again, the only way we can't work our way harder out of this, right? Again, just tons of literature, man. Like again, we was talking the other day about Derek Bell with respect to critical race theory. You cannot work your way out of this. And there's another book you should read. It's called White Trash. I don't know if y'all read it. I always talk about white trash all the time. One thing that struck me about the book White Trash, it broke down how many barriers, how many different levels of whiteness there is. Right. So just before we even get a leg up, we got to go through the lowest bar. Right. And again, the thing that keeps us, and again, to Derek Bell's piece about critical race theory, the thing that keeps us in place is the fact that we're so perpetually under the lowest rated or lowest caste of whiteness, or they call it station. The lowest station of whiteness keeps black will never will never go past the lowest station of whiteness. So we're all, so it's not surprising. And again, the closer they put us to, like, again, think about it. All the shootings that happen in our city, all the shootings that happen, all black folks shot. Okay, cool. There ain't, man, anything else, there would be an utter shutdown. You talking about the pandemic to shut it down. Man, they would shut this joint down so fast. Why? They don't. Because they see this as less about it being, this is the end result of any particular, particular sub, particular group of people that found themselves in a onslaught, fighting off all of these outside forces that actually creates this space for them to actually be perpetually in this space. That's any particular group of people, right? But but they're not looking at it like that, right? And again, you want to go down the line. Like, there's a book called Razor's Edge. It talks about the Jews committing. These are talking about high end, like, people that was well educated, whatever. How quick, once they went into the Warsaw ghettos in Warsaw, how quick they turned into criminality. There was I can go on and on. There was a gang in the ghettos of Warsaw called Gold Coat Gang or Gold Flag Gang.
Survival.
They created, and then it's so bad that afterwards there was the tribunal, and there was within the Israel state, the newly formed at the time Israel state, that they took. I got a quote. I'll text you. They took it light on them and actually said that there was all of these different psychologies around it. They call it complex victims. They called it people that were victims themselves that victimized other people. Was called complex victims. I can't think of a better complex victim, right? But yet for us, it's no, we're not. We're evil.
They created a word for them as well. It's called cognitive dissonance.
There's that. There's that. But none of this should surprise anyone. All we have to do is just do a little bit of history, a little bit of research, and we'll understand that there is and will perpetually be a separate world for us, 100%, and that we will not surpass it. And the more and the closer we get to understanding that, the more we work with each other to understand the only way we can actually make a ground. Again, Miss Charlotte Plains, right? Give an example. You talk about somebody, man, when I met Charlotte tell you, like, I honor Charlotte. I really, truly do. Because Charlotte put me on so much. She may not think that she did and may not understand the totality of what she did for me. But at a time when I was so fledgling in my comprehension, when I always tell a story, she drugged me around the state by my ear. Like, no, you need to get out here. No, you need to. That's the only way we can do this. We have to. And you have to, again, I'm serious when I say that. I'll ask her for permission to talk, right? I honor her, right? And we have to honor each other, especially our women, especially our elders, especially our community as a whole. That's the only way out of this. And not even out of this, the only way to survive it, because we're not getting out of this. Right? That's
no, going through it.
No. Yeah.
I mean, you was talking about an hour was going to be too much, since we're rolling up on an hour now.
I'm just saying.
Before I let you, first of all, I wouldn't even, as I said from the beginning, be disrespectful to try to pack it all into 1 hour or one show.
No, all good.
Of course, we already got the September 8th date down, between 9 and 12. What we're going to do here in the city, have your face in the place, and there'll be more for our viewers. There'll be more on that to come. But I want to give you a few minutes to surmise what we've talked about, not necessarily regurgitate what we talked about, but based on what we talked about, where do we go from here? What are some solutions that you are working on that we can be helpful in, that we can promote with you, that we can come join arm in arm, side by side with you as you continue to push forward, thriving forward, we'll say. So how do we, from the center part of the state and western part of the state, help you not only in Philadelphia, but globally as you expand?
So yeah, I appreciate that. I think only the thing I would say again, me specifically, I would just say is like the sort of takeaway that I'm learning is that I don't know anything, right? It's like I feel like it ain't about me, it's about we, right? And it's about like I would only encourage just the same sort of pathway, same trajectory I've been taking is self-awareness and actually learning, networking, building community, right? Being a support system, and receiving help, right? Again, when I talked about my old head Haroon and Daoud and Shakur and them at Greater Ford, who Charlotte, everybody knows that way, is that I always talk about that, and it should tell you that I always pay them homage. Why? Because I talk about it as pre-mentorship. We got to realize and understand that we're not used to really truly receiving and asking for help. I had to learn that. They had to beat that in me to say, no, you need to. And real quick anecdote to that, like real quick piece to that is that I told you about Glenn Holston, who came in Greater Ford teaching me film. Interesting thing, every day he would come, some days 3 days a week for 6 years. He would come to Greater Ford. I would go back to my cell. Mo with Haroon used to come to my cell. Let me tell you how deep this is. He would come to my cell to see me, and there's times that he would bring me a card, he would go to commissary and buy like a greeting card. He would have it filled out. He just wanted me to sign it and put it in the mailbox to Glenn. All it said was thank you. Think about that. And I did. And I'm sure Glenn probably has that. But what I'm saying is that community and how do we support each other, understanding our own perpetually, right? I'm not perfect, and I'm sure, I ain't gonna ask Charlotte all my inequities. But I'm saying is that the more I learn, the more I want other people to learn and be open to growth and understanding that, this is not an individual, accomplishment Olympics, right? This is not a solo sport. This is a community sport. I'm working on right now. Again, I have my company Ming, and we do, films that way. We're working on a film, finishing up now, looking at music therapy as a pharmacological treatment for PTSD and TBIs with respect to a veteran community. And it's in a rough stage now, so we're hopefully going to have that available. I'll send you a rough edit of it, so you can check it out. It's an amazing piece. Again, the use of music as a therapeutic tool for PTSD and TBI, and we're having that available as a sort of homage to people that whose lives were either lost and or changed, all of us in a lot of ways, due to 9/11 and what happened and occurred after that. Um, um, Also, our shooters program is popping. We got some pieces that we're going to be sharing shortly. Yeah, so I would just say get in contact with me and or show love to Charlotte and all her efforts, and you, Karl. Like I feel like everything you're doing is amazing, and I definitely look forward to being back.
No doubt. We appreciate that. And of course, you are always welcome back here. Any projects that you're doing, even if you want to come back and lead off, talk about your family as it continues to grow.
That's how
Congratulations.
we. That's how we always talk to start off. Anyways, you always got to talk about family. It's like
You already know.
that's it. Yeah,
That's
that's it.
so. Like I said, it was great spending this time with you. As I
Likewise.
stated, it was going to be organic as it was. I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions on the replay. We just asked for you to jump in on Facebook, see that at the table with Karl Singleton, as well as on YouTube. When there's individuals like yourself on, there's a lot of questions that end up coming in because people watch it, later.
Certainly,
So if you wouldn't mind checking periodically to maybe answer some questions, put your information,
certainly.
contact information in there to go a long way, and I would greatly
Yeah,
appreciate it. And we'll of course continue to run this, and like I said, September 8th, love to have you here.
mhm.
Um, it's going to happen, my man. I appreciate you. All the love in the world to you. Best wishes to your family and to our
Likewise, bro.
viewers out there. Some of the things that Brothers L. Sawyer was highlighting was that self-awareness, community building, and other important necessities in terms of assisting one another as we continue to enhance our community. So our next guest after this commercial is none other than Miss Tatiana Roberts of Miss Brunch Me Please, and we're going to talk about how she's galvanizing the community around her work ethic and also community building in her own way, to bring people together to highlight the importance of supporting one another and doing it in a positive and fun way. Again, you're here live. Yours truly, Karl Singleton, host of A Seat at the Table. Again, we are back with the one and only Miss Tatiana Roberts. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Definitely. So it's definitely a pleasure to have you in studio. We've been working this out, trying to make sure it happened.
I know.
The goal was to work it out before we got to the 25th, so we could, you know, do that piece. But thanks for being here. Let's talk a bit about why you decided to get involved around this Brunch Me Please.
So Brunch Me Please was started for me. I did it with myself in mind. Coming out of the pandemic, I really realized the importance of having a network, a supportive network. And I wanted to create that for myself. So I started Brunch Me Please. April 11th was when I started it, and I had 8 people. Yesterday, I had over 40.
Over 40. And invite only or
And
ticket pre-sale.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
pre-sale,
not
pre-sale,
invite only,
yeah.
but pre-sale only.
Mm-hmm.
So I missed my ticket. So I'm gonna have to make sure, we,
Work that out.
all that good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You VIP, so you
all right. Can I get 2 for the guys too?
2 for the guys?
Yeah, just all right, slide them in. No.
August 22nd is the next one. So
that's right.
Yeah.
So August 22nd. You heard it here first. What's that? You heard it here first. August 22nd will be the next Brunch Me Please. How do you intend to grow this, and if at all, how do you intend to grow it, and what are you hopeful to grow it into?
I would like to see BMP all throughout Pennsylvania, then across the United States, and if not the world, honestly. I feel like it's very necessary and needed. It's focused solely on growing to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I went through a period where I had no choice but to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I created this space for others to come into a safe space, but still be a little bit uncomfortable, but come out feeling confident and empowered and happy. So I see this thing growing to a place where we're able to come in and have speakers and different speakers who are what's the word I'm trying to say? Experts in their subject matter experts. Yes, to empower and encourage people. And then of course have a turn up, have fun, get comfortable, and enjoy the time. Yeah.
So what are some of the feedback that you've gotten? Okay, so let's start with, of course, from the beginning. We'll start with what are some of the most positive things that you've heard about that which you've started?
The most positive thing that I've heard thus far is that people have felt so comfortable and welcome and invited. Oh, can't hear me? People have felt so comfortable and welcome and invited in that space. I've had people hit me up and say, I'm scared to come. I'm gonna buy my ticket anyway, and I'll see you there. I have people show up by themselves. They'll bring a friend. They come and they have a good time. I'm a very bubbly, warm, open person. So I do my best to make them feel very, very comfortable. And of course, I have an activity every time we have brunch.
So this is what we'll do. We take a quick commercial break, and on the other side, we're going to talk about what has been some of the feedback that has helped you moving forward, enhance Brunch Me Please. So we'll be back after this small commercial break. All right. Okay, welcome back to A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. And again, we have our guest, Miss Brunch Me Please, Tatiana Roberts. We were talking before commercial break as far as what keeps you going, what you're thriving off of. But I also posed the question, what has been some constructional criticism or feedback that you've received from these various events that you've thrown that's helping you enhance how you move forward?
So the biggest one is me diversifying the group, the attendees that come in. The majority of them are women that come to brunch. Brunch Me Please is for everyone, any background, every walk of life. So the biggest thing that I've been hearing from participants is how do we get more people to come, more guys to come, more males to come? And one thing that I do struggle with is appealing to males. I feel like that space for them, they kind of shy away from it. And situations with vulnerability and being uncomfortable aren't really spaces that men would typically be gravitating towards. So trying to figure out a way to incorporate men for them to not exert that toxic masculinity. That's the key right there.
Is it just be masculinity instead of toxic? Can they still exert? Can them not me?
Well, not you.
Not me. I'm different. Yeah, but no. That's a valid question. Yeah. Can men, from a female perspective, I can't answer this from a female perspective. Can men be assertive without their masculinity being considered toxic?
Yes, they absolutely can.
I believe that, but I don't want to answer my own question.
No, for sure. They absolutely can. But I just feel like there is this stigma in place where in certain spaces men have to act accordingly, despite them feeling sad, feeling vulnerable, feeling however they're feeling, being human. They have to put up a front just to maintain and walk through life. So I'm trying to break that barrier and bridge that gap to get them to come into that door and say, hey, this is a safe space. I'm here to help you. We're all people. We're all human. It's fine.
Right. So is there, or do you rotate your subject matter experts? Are they female? Are they male? Is it a combination?
I have been the expert subject matter person so far. Right, but I want to invite more in. So I'm brainstorming some people in mind that I have a list of that I'm going to reach out to see if they can draw that back in and rear the men in.
All right. No, I respect that. And so, I think the spaces that we're moving in now, especially around what you're developing, and, we have a King's group here that we started keeping inner city neighborhoods great and safe. And there's a total of 124 Black men on this list who basically we remain in contact with using this platform. And of course, I know that the control room feels the same way, that this is an open space for us. This is a place for us to tell our story. We are going to be going mobile as well. So we do a lot of on location stuff. So if we're invited, we would love to.
Always invited.
Said that for free? No, I'm just joking.
I don't know about the free part. I don't know about that part.
Shout out to the control room. Who's going to take care of all the bills.
Yep.
So no, but in all seriousness, we want to make sure that young people like yourselves and others that are really participating in the Brunch Me Please or other ideas, entrepreneurial experiences that they're having, clearly understand that this is the place, the safe space in your world, in your wording, where you can come and make sure you have a diverse platform to really get your message out there. We can't, we can't tell the channel XYZ with the report on and how to report lacking cultural competence. We can't tell the as I say, non-patriotic news to do what they do, and then get a couple of people to participate here and there and call it inclusivity. But we can say we can tell our story real time and now moving forward on location. So moving forward with Brunch Me Please.
Yes.
It is August 25th, 22nd?
22nd.
August 22nd. August 22nd. Location to be determined, I'm sure.
So yes, it's always a secret. There's a level of expectancy for Brunch Me Please all the time. I kind of just keep it a little secret.
Right. So what's the aim this time? Balance. Let me ask this: do you keep it at a set number?
Yes. Yes, I keep it at a set number. I cap it. Because the spaces are supposed to be very intimate. Just for them to be able to be open and not be crowded by a whole bunch of people, not to be intimidated by.
I was just intimidated by the small space just now. I was just
really.
No, I'm just joking. I'm not. No, but so I guess we'll know when those tickets are going on sale.
Yes,
this week. Okay. Any particular day this week?
Aiming for Friday.
Okay, so aiming for Friday for the August 22nd. Brunch Me Please, which will be number what?
It'll be number. Oh shoot.
That's okay.
5. Number 5.
So this August 22nd will
number
be
5.
Brunch Me Please 5. Number 5.
Number 5.
And counting. So again, I just want to give you some last words. Told you it would be harmless, organic, and everything else. So give you the last words. With regards to Brunch Me Please and anything else you would like to highlight at this point.
I encourage any and everyone to come to Brunch Me Please. Please follow me on Instagram, Brunch Me Please. So it's brunch _me_please at Instagram.
There they go right there.
Oh, you can see me?
Yeah.
Hi, y'all. Follow me. Please turn on your post notifications too. So whenever I tag and post about Brunch Me Please, you can go ahead and get your ticket. And thanks for having me.
Yep, thank you. You did well, like we said you would. Proud of you. And again, thank you to our viewers for joining in to another episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. We are here live Mondays and Thursdays from between 6 and 8 p.m. Again, we thank our earlier guest, Mr. L. Sawyer, for coming on with us virtually. And of course, in studio, Miss Tatiana Roberts. We'll see you next time on A Seat at the Table.